Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is March 26, 2025, and reports are stating that Barcelona have reached an agreement in order to sign Marc Pubil. Also, the club are planning the contract extension of Pablo Torre. And finally, Raphinha with his statements. They're now backfiring. We're going to discuss his statements, what everyone else is saying, and of course, what the Spanish media are saying about Raphinha's words ahead of El Clásico Sudamericano between Brazil and Argentina. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and this is the Barca News Podcast, my favorite day of the week, because I get to interact with you lovely people in the comment section by reading your comments, answering questions, and getting a discussion going. Of course, the podcasts are on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And for those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description and channels in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and just get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to hit the Gold Kids, Get Back, or Fanatics. If you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure to hit the Bet Us. All links are down below in the description. Click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers, and you would be supporting this channel. So hey, if you want to support us, please do. Anyways, let's start with the news. And as always, the first segment of news, it's several small bits of news combined together for the sake of time and for the sake of brevity, starting with the FIFA international break is officially over. Let's go. The fourth FIFA international break of this year. Yes, that is not a mistake. That's not hyperbole. It's literally the fourth FIFA international break of the season. We had three during the first half of the season. This was the fourth one. FIFA, please, what the hell are you doing? UEFA, what the hell are you doing? La Liga, what the hell are you doing? Stop with these matches. This is absolute insanity. But anyways, the FIFA international break is over. All the players are back except for Raphinha and Araujo, who, of course, finished their international break yesterday, which technically was the early hours of today in Spain. So, of course, they're not back yet. But the entire team, for the exception of Raphinha and Araujo, went back to training today because, of course, tomorrow we do have that very important match against Osasuna. It's the match that got postponed after the death of Dr. Carlos Miñarro. And tomorrow we have to win, ladies and gentlemen. If we do, we would be 3 points ahead of Madrid and 7 points ahead of Atletico Madrid, which at this point, I think it would be pretty much over for Atletico Madrid. It would be a race between Barca and Madrid. So tomorrow we have to win. Now, during the training, guess who was also amongst the players training? It was no other than Pau Cubarsí. And this was important, of course, because as you know, Pau Cubarsí suffered an injury during the international break. He was released after only one match. He came back to Barcelona. He underwent exams. Barcelona confirmed his injury. And even though it was looking, very positive, simple injury, unfortunately, it looks like it was a bit more serious. It's still not a serious injury. When I say it's more serious than initially thought, it's still not a serious injury. And in fact, the player had not trained until today. Today was the first day that Cubarsí trained with his teammates. So, of course, he's not going to be included tomorrow because one training is not enough to be included. And in fact, this was confirmed by Hansi Flick himself during the pre-match press conference. Now, this is what the German coach had to say about not only Cubarsí, but also Araujo and Raphinha. He said, the team has a lot of quality and we can beat any opponent, even though we are missing players. Raphinha and Araujo will not be in the squad tomorrow. They have a long flight and they have to recover. Eric and Inigo will be the center backs for tomorrow's game. Cubarsí's injury is not important, but we prefer him to rest. So there you go, folks, straight from the coach himself, not from a source, a media source, not a rumor. Now, from the coach himself confirming that Araujo and Raphinha will not play tomorrow. They just flew back from Argentina. It's an incredibly long flight, so they're going to be exhausted. Even though Araujo did not play the final match against Bolivia, still, it's a very long flight. Raphinha did. He played the entire 90 minutes. So Raphinha and Araujo are not going to play tomorrow. Second, Cubarsí is also not going to play tomorrow. His injury, again, not serious, but Hansi Flick does not want to, risk it with only one training. He could get re-injured. So Flick prefers to, protect him. Let's not forget, on Sunday, we have another La Liga match. And then after that, we have the semifinal of the Copa del Rey. We have like 6 matches or 7 matches in 28 days or 9 matches in 28 days. Something absolutely crazy. So Cubarsí's not going to play. Araujo's not going to play. Raphinha's not going to play. And the 2 starting center backs will be Iñigo Martinez, who has recovered from his injury on time, even though it was thought that he would be out for 2 to 3 weeks. And then Eddie Garcia alongside Iñigo Martinez. So that will be the 2 center backs. Now, by the way, Barcelona are not the only ones who are going to be missing important players. Osasuna, they're not going to have Brian Zaragoza. Brian Zaragoza also got injured during the international break. He was also released early from the Spanish training camp. He has not trained with Osasuna, so he's not going to be present tomorrow. And that's important because he has scored 3 goals and provided 1 assist against Barcelona in only 2 matches. So that Brian Zaragoza, even though he's an average player, for some reason, when it comes to Barcelona, he always turns into a Messi and he always causes a lot of damage. But tomorrow he will not play. He will miss out due to injury, or maybe he'll play, but it will only be, for a few minutes. But Brian Zaragoza is injured, so Barcelona are not going to be the only ones that will be missing players. Now, Lewandowski also trained with the group, so it looks like he too will be available. And then more remarks, because Hansi Flick made some interesting remarks, which was a direct slap and a lesson to Real Madrid, because as you know, Real Madrid have been crying a lot lately in the media, complaining about the calendar. In fact, they had even threatened not to play the second leg of the semifinals of the Copa del Rey, which if they don't, Real Sociedad would qualify by default, which I would rather not. I would rather play Real Madrid in the final, beat them, and win another trophy at their expense. But Hansi Flick was asked, hey, what do you think about Real Madrid, constantly crying? Of course, not in those words, but this is what Flick had to say, like the total boss that he is. We are Barca, not Real Madrid, and I am very proud that we are Barca. So Hansi Flick with the shot, firing shots at Real Madrid. In other words, saying, look, we're not a cry babies like Real Madrid. Yes, and he did speak about this more, not about the Real Madrid part, but about the calendar. He said, yes, the calendar sucks. It's not ideal, but no excuses. That's what we got to deal with. I've already talked to the physiotherapist. We already have a plan in place, to get the players ready for these matches and protect them. And that's it. That's it. And that's, of course, in line with what Flick has been saying all season, that there are no excuses. You can only worry about what you can control, which is the team's performance. Everything else, everything external that you cannot control, the referees, the calendar, the weather, the grass, whatever. Don't worry about that because you cannot control it. And then today, Hansi Flick sending the same message saying, hey, does this suck? Absolutely. Is it ideal? No. But guess what? That's the cards we were dealt, and we're going to figure out a way to deal with it because there are no excuses when it comes to Hansi Flick. So a big lesson to Real Madrid to otherwise shut the fuck up and stop crying and just deal with it. And also a big lesson for Barcelona fans because, we like to make fun of Real Madrid and saying that they're crybabies, but there are a lot of Barcelona fans who are also crybabies, who are always complaining about the calendar and about the referees and the league is corrupt and we should go to League On to play there and we should leave La Liga and blah, blah, blah. And here you go. Your own coach is telling you no excuses. We're going to figure out a way. We're going to deal with it because that's what a man does. That's what a real coach does. Does it suck? Yes. Is it ideal? No. But you figure out a way and you deal with it rather than just sit and cry and wallow in your own tears. And by the way, that's a great lesson, not just for football, but for life. If you have some shit to deal with it. Stop crying. Stop making up excuses. Figure out a way to face it and face it. That's Hansi Flick's message to Madrid. And let this be a message to Barcelona fans who spent all last season crying, making up excuses. And now they're making fun of Madrid for crying and making up excuses. You can't have it both ways. You either cry when Barcelona make up excuses and also cry when Real Madrid make up excuses, or you say no to Madrid crying and also no to Barca's crying. You can't have it both ways. You can't cry when things are going bad for Barcelona, but then complain that Madrid are crying when things are going bad for them. So pick one and stick to it rather than flip-flopping. Anyways, let's get back to the news. Sorry, not the news, the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Marc Pubil. Ahmad Khalil says, hi, Mo, how are you? How are you under Hansi Flick? I am great under Hansi Flick. Of course, he's not my coach. I'm not technically under him, but I'm happy that he's our coach. Says, how might their current success redefine the club's identity in the post-Messi era, and specifically, especially if they sustain this dominance without relying on a singular superstar? I mean, look, this is Barca, and Barca should always be competing for everything. I'm not talking about winning everything. That's impossible. You can't win trophies or all trophies every single season, but we should always be up there. We should always be competing for trophies. That's the standard at Barcelona. That's always been the standard, and that should always be the standard. And in that standard, that things need to change. If the coach is not up to par, we need to change the coach. If there are players that are not up to par, we need to change the players. Instead of, which what Barcelona fans have been doing the last few seasons, making up excuses, justifying the unjustifiable, defending the undefendable. No, our standard is you always compete for everything. And if the players or the coach or the president or the board cannot do their job to where they have Barcelona competing for everything, then that person needs to leave. And I don't know why this is so difficult for people to understand. And yes, I'm going to bring up Xavi because so many people defended him with everything they had. And it's like, why? Why? The standard is we compete for everything. If we cannot compete for everything, that person who's causing that needs to go. Just that's simple. The whole defending a player just because they wear a Barca jersey no matter what, that's bullshit. You don't defend the player no matter what just because they play for Barca. You don't defend the coach no matter what just because he's Barca's coach. You don't defend the president no matter what just because he's Barcelona's president. You defend them when they do a good job. When they do a bad job, you tell them, get the fuck out and bring someone who can actually do the job. Otherwise, our club is going to go back to mediocrity, which is exactly where we were this last few seasons. Is that what you want for your club? Are you truly a Barcelona fan when you're okay with your club being absolute shite just because you want to defend some guy because you like him? Because that to me doesn't make sense. I don't care who the coach is. I don't care who the players are. If they're doing their job, welcome. You can stay forever. But if you're doing a shit job, you need to leave. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't care if Messi comes and becomes the coach. If his team is not performing, he needs to get the fuck out, even though he's the best player in our history. It's simple as that. As long as the people at the club are performing, welcome, stay. If they're not doing their job, they need to get out, and someone else who can do their job can take their place. Because Barcelona did not become the great club that it is by magic. Barcelona was not just born a magical club. That didn't happen. That happened because great people came to this club and did great things. And if you want this club to remain great, then you have to demand and request that more great people continue coming and continue to do great things. Not mediocre people who do mediocre things and then you defend them because, oh, well, you know, he's a legend. Oh, well, he's a Barca player, so I have to defend him no matter what. No, my friend, if they cannot do great things, they need to go because that's when clubs fall into mediocrity. Ask AC Milan, ask many clubs who have fallen into mediocrity and cannot get out of it. Is that what you want for Barca? Do you want the repeat of the last 10 years for Barca just because you like a certain guy and you want to defend them no matter what? No. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. This is Barcelona. The standard is high. If someone cannot meet it, there's the door. Someone else can take their place. Jason says, hey, Mo, non-Barcelona question here. Who do you think has the best chance of winning the World Cup and why? I'll be cheering on Team USA, but I know better not to hold my breath. Yeah, that's always a good advice with our team, unfortunately. And it sucks, too, because Team USA has really good players. We just cannot seem to get the coaching right. And we also cannot seem to get the good players to play well together. And a lot of it also has to do with our infrastructure. You know, unfortunately, football is not a popular sport in the U.S. It's probably one of the least popular. It is growing in popularity. But, of course, there are other sports who people prefer to watch, like American football, baseball, basketball. So I think a lot of it also has to do with the, our infrastructure of scouting kids, the whole pay to play, system here in the US, where unless you have money, you pretty much have no shot. And that needs to change. But as far as who can win the World Cup, I would say, I think Spain is one of the favorites, just with the squad that they have. I mean, they have a young squad, very talented, promising players who have incredible chemistry. That's also very important. It's not always about having the best players. It's also about having chemistry between your players. For example, the Argentine squad, right? They don't have the best players in the world. I mean, sure, they have Messi, but a lot of their players are like Europa League players. I'm talking about the squad that won the World Cup. But they had incredible unity and chemistry, and there was just that bond that, emerged from these youngsters who saw Messi struggle with the Argentine national team, and they promised themselves that they would never let him down. And the way they came together, that's very important. So Spain kind of has that. And also, I think the way Argentina played yesterday, I think they have a shot at another World Cup. I don't know whether they win it or not. I don't know. I mean, Messi will probably not play with them, but they also have a great team. So I think it's between Spain and Argentina, with Spain, I think, being a little bit more the favorites, but because there's a lot of Argentine players who won the World Cup this last time around, and they're not going to be, like Angel Di Maria is not going to be there in 2026. Messi's not going to be there in 2020. Or he might, but if he is, he might not start. There's Otamendi, he's not going to be there. So there's going to be a lot of players who are going to be too old. So I think Spain has that edge over Argentina because they are a younger team. Let's see. Vahid says Messi fans are trolling Raphinha over his Argentina comments. These teams have always rivaled. Barca fans should focus on Barca, not rivals. Barca is bigger than Messi or anyone else. I'll talk about Raphinha's statements in a little bit. I want to talk about his statements, the responses from other players, and also what's going on in the whole Spanish media as far as what concerns Raphinha's statements. I'll talk about it at the end. But let's get back to the news, because we do have a breaking news. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the reporter Sara Escriu, I think that's how you say her name, has reported that Barcelona have reached an agreement to sign Marc Pubil. Now, Marc Pubil is someone we talked about last summer, even before that. He's a 21-year-old right back, a very promising right back who currently plays at Almeria. Last season, he played in first division. Almeria got relegated, and now he is playing in second division. He was key in Spain's Olympic gold win this past summer. So a very promising player that Barcelona have been tracking for quite some time. And in fact, Barcelona tried to sign Marc Pubil during the summer. Originally, Almeria had requested that Barcelona pay the entire release clause. Barcelona said no. Then the summer came. Almeria got relegated. Barcelona went back to Almeria, said, look, you're going to second division. Sell me this player. Like, he's not going to want to play in second division. Almeria said, nope, sorry. You got to pay the whole release clause. So Barcelona said, okay, then screw you. So Barcelona did not end up signing him. But nonetheless, Marc Pubil is someone that Barcelona have been trying to sign for quite some time. And now the reporter Sara Escriu is reported that Barcelona have reached an agreement with the player to join Barcelona come this summer. Now, the report goes on further to say that Barcelona are now dealing with Almeria because, of course, first you have to get the agreement from the player. Hey, do you want to come play for us? Yes? Okay, great. Let me go talk to your boss or your club, and let me see if they're willing to sell you. So it's reported that Deco is now in advanced negotiations with Almeria, and that they are finalizing the last details of the transfer for Marc Pubil to come to Barcelona. Now, no sources at the club have confirmed this, but nonetheless, where there's smoke, usually there's fire. So if there's reports that Barcelona have reached an agreement with the player, most likely there is some truth to that. Now, remember, this is only an agreement with the player. Agreement with Almeria has not been reached. So just because you reach an agreement with the player doesn't mean he's coming 100%. Things can always fall through with the club that the player belongs to. And of course, there's the whole financial fair play thing where we still don't know what our financial fair play is going to look like in the summer. So Barcelona are going to have to, get their ducks in a row, finish the agreement with Almeria, figure out financial fair play, see if they can register Marc Pubil, which I'm guessing that's not going to be the biggest problem because Marc Pubil, his current market value is $4 million. I can't imagine his salary is that high in second division. He probably has a very small salary. So I'm guessing that's probably not going to be a problem to register him. But of course, we do have to finalize the agreement with Almeria first. All right, let's get back to the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Pablo Torre. All right, let's see. Edwin says, hey, Mo, thoughts on Dembele changing his profile picture to one with himself and Gabi? I have not seen that because I don't really follow Dembele on social media, but I have heard talks or seen talks on social media saying that Dembele kind of wants PSG to sign Gabi. He thinks he would be a great addition. But of course, we know the club stance. Gabi's not for sale. And of course, Gabi has said that he wants to retire at Barcelona. He's not thinking about any other clubs. Even though he's gotten less minutes, he still doesn't care. He just wants to be part of Barcelona. And that's the difference between academy players and non-academy players. All right, let's see. Nathan Fort says, hi, Mo. I watched and you watched the game yesterday. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think about Wesley playing for a total 9 minutes? Do you think he is worth 30 million? What match are you talking about? Are you talking about the Brazil-Argentina? Because if it is, wait, hold on. What match are you talking about? Let me clarify a little bit, and then I'll answer your question. Credence says, ¿Qué pasó, Mo? Buenas noches. Do you have any updates on Christensen? Jesus, we need bodies on that pitch. It really helped to have his services in the later half of the season and increase market value. So Christensen reportedly is going to be back next month. And Barcelona do want to start giving him minutes in order to put him on the market in the summer. So it looks like Barcelona are thinking about offloading Christensen, and that's why they want to, give him some play time. That way his market value doesn't keep tanking, and also to show potential clubs that could sign him, like, hey, look, he still got it, So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully he doesn't get re-injured again, because he's gotten re-injured 2 times already. Because it looks like he is a goner. And my man Klaus, who's always good to see you in the comment section, my friend, says it's worse for Osasuna. Yeah, it's worse because obviously Brian Zaragoza is a very important player, and usually smaller teams, when they lose an important player, affects them a lot more than bigger clubs, because bigger clubs, you lose an important player, there's another one right behind him on the bench, right, that can take his place. But clubs like Osasuna, clubs with very small budgets, they lose their starter, and then the bench player is like 10 times worse, right? It's a huge gap between their starters and their bench players, versus the big clubs, the gap is a lot smaller between your starter and your bench player. And of course, they have to play a match the following day. That's how idiotic this whole thing is. Jose Aguilar says, proud to be a Barcelona fans. We got to deal with all the bullshit they get from every single direction. All of Spain versus Barca. And Innocent says, hi, Mo, watching from Nigeria. What's going on with Hector and Victor? Nothing's going on. They're there. Doesn't look like they've convinced. I'm guessing you're talking about Pau Victor and Hector Fort. They have not really convinced Flick to give them enough minutes, but they're there. Shamar says, hey, Mo, how do you feel about Pablo Torre not playing more than he is? Do you think Flick can give him more minutes, or is there something deeper happening behind the scenes in which we know nothing about? I mean, it just honestly just looks like probably Flick thinks that the other midfielders that are ahead of Pablo Torre are just better. I don't think it's a matter of Pablo Torre sucking or anything else. We've seen that he has potential, but unfortunately, it's just too many midfielders, right? And when you have so many midfielders and most of them are better than you, Pedri, Casado, Frankie, Fermin, Gavi. Unfortunately, that's what happens, right? It doesn't mean necessarily that he's bad, but there are better players than him, and there's better players than you. Unfortunately, you either got to work really, really hard to become better than at least one of them or two of them, or try to look for minutes somewhere else. Anyway, speaking of Pablo Torre, let's get back to the news, because the next segment is about Pablo Torre. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's reported that Barcelona are looking to extend the contract of the young midfielder. Now, Pablo Torre has not been getting much minutes during the season. In fact, he has only gotten 373 minutes. He's only played 373 minutes across 12 matches, which is very little. And of course, given that Barcelona in the winter transfer market gave him the option to leave on loan, with many clubs being interested in him, including Real Betis, Celta, and also Valencia. But despite the lack of minutes, despite other clubs being interested in him, Pablo Torre said, no, I prefer to stay. I want to continue fighting for my spot, which he did. He stayed. He's still there fighting for his spot, but unfortunately, no more minutes have come his way. Now, given that Pablo Torre is not getting much playing time, and given that his contract expires in 2026, that means this summer he will be entering his final year. Barcelona are, of course, looking for a solution. Now, the preferable solution for Barcelona is to extend the contract of Pablo Torre and then send him out on loan, because he is, of course, in a critical stage of his career, 21 or 22. During this stage, you're still forming, you're still developing, and you need to play. You have to be playing so you can continue growing and you can reach your potential. Otherwise, if you don't play, you can end up plateauing, kind of like what's going on with Ansu Fati. So Barcelona don't want that to happen because they believe in Pablo Torres' potential. They believe in his skills. So they want to extend his contract, send him out on loan, let him get playing time, let him continue developing and growing. And in the alternative, in case Pablo Torre decides, no, I don't want to go on loan, then Barcelona are prepared to put him on the market because, of course, now under Deco, Barcelona don't want any players playing in the last year of their contract. This is something that Deco has decided to implement all across the board. If you are about to enter the last year of your contract, you either renew or you leave, because Barcelona don't want to lose more players as free agents. So that's going to be Pablo Torres' two options: extend and go on loan. If not, man, you will be offloaded. Now, I want to hear you guys' thoughts. What do you think Barcelona should do with Pablo Torre? Do you prefer Barcelona renew him? Do you prefer Barcelona offload him? Let me know in the comment section. And speaking of the comment section, let's get back to the comment section. David says, do you think if Vinny was playing under Flick, he would still have such a stupid attitude? That's a good question. On one hand, I want to say no, because we've seen how disciplined Flick is and how tough he is with his players. And on the other hand, you can't fix stupid, right? But who knows? Maybe Flick would be strong enough to deal with him, because let's not forget Neymar. Neymar was always a big diver. And when he came to Barcelona, it kind of lessened a lot. He still kind of did it every now and then, but compared to before, it reduced a lot. And then when he left, he went back to like always diving and always pulling those stunts. So I don't know. Maybe players could, under the right coach, but I don't know. Vinicius is just he's a special case. And I don't mean it in a good way, because we've seen Ancelotti like scream at him and be like, dude, stop. We've seen his own teammates like, dude, shut up. And he still goes. He goes. So I don't know. Maybe Madrid just need to be more forceful with him. Like, look, I don't care that you're the star. I don't care that you're the best player on the squad. If you continue to do this, you're not playing a single minute until you stop. And maybe that will help. I don't know. But again, you can't fix stupid. Oh, and we have 2 donations. Marek Kazis, thank you for your donation, my friend. Says, Mo, we need more left-footed center backs. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And they're very hard to find, unfortunately. But we do have Iñigo. And I think that's it, right? I think Garcia, Araujo, even Christensen, I think they're all right-footed. Is Eric Garcia right-footed or left? I think he's right-footed too. I think Iñigo is our only left-footed one. So yes, we do need left-footed center backs. Is Ta left-footed? Let me see. Let me look this up. Jonathan Ta. Let's see. Is Jonathan Ta left-footed or right-footed? Let's see. Ta is, roll the drum roll. Oh, no, he's also right-footed. I guess Iñigo is going to be the only one. Thank you for your donation, my friend. And let's go to the other donation from Nathan Forge. Thank you so much, my friend, for your generosity. Nathan says, yes, Mo, the match of Brazil versus Argentina, do you think Wesley is worth 30 mil? Okay, so you were talking about the Brazilian Wesley. Okay. I honestly did not watch the match. I only watched the highlights, so I cannot really answer that question. But my problem with Brazilian players is that they're very overpriced. And, it just has to do with history, because Brazil has always produced some of the best players in the world, all the way back from Pelé to Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo, not Penaldo, Ronaldinho, Romario, Rivaldo, Neymar. They've always produced the best players in the world. So I think because of that history, the prices of their players are always inflated. And plus, they're really good at marketing, right? They're very, very good at marketing. I mean, every Brazilian player we hear about, he's gonna be the next Lionel Messi, Pelé, Maradona hybrid, right? Every youngster in Brazil is the next guy, and most of them end up being flops, right? Like Vitor Roque, he was supposed to be the next Ronaldo Nazario, and I mean, he's not even the next Barca water boy, right? So, yeah, my problem with Brazilian players is that their prices are inflated. Not to say that there aren't good Brazilian players. I mean, Vini is Brazilian, and to me, is one of the best players in the world, despite his attitude and shenanigans. But they usually are overpriced. So that's my only problem. So is Wesley worth 30 mil? I don't know. Probably not, because as we've seen, most Brazilian players have very inflated prices. But anyways, thank you for your generosity, my friend. And speaking of Brazilian players, let's do the last segment of news, because Raphinha has gotten himself in a little bit of trouble. Maybe not trouble, controversy, not trouble, because there aren't, any fines or anything like that. Some controversy because of his statements before the Clásico match between Brazil and Argentina. Now, to put some context, Raphinha was doing kind of like this casual interview with Romario. They were having like a casual conversation. They were laughing, ha ha ha, joking around, shooting the shit. To put it lightly. And Romario, asked Raphinha, "Hey, is Brazil, who are facing Argentina without Messi, are they gonna win?" And this is what Raphinha said: "I'm going to score a goal. Screw them, no matter what. A beating without a doubt, on and off the pitch, if necessary." So these are the statements that Raphinha made, that kind of beat them on or off the pitch. And that's what I said. I get the context. It wasn't really a serious interview. He was saying it jokingly. But the off the pitch was a little bit unnecessary, and that of course did cause some controversy in the media, because controversy sells, and we always got to look for controversy somewhere. But the worst part is that Raphinha has to eat his words, because of course Argentina yesterday demolished Brazil. Total domination by Argentina, winning 4-1. If you haven't seen the goals, watch them. They were all incredible goals, especially Simeone's goal. Simeone's goal was absolutely insane, which I see now people saying Barcelona should sign him. No, just because he scored an amazing goal doesn't mean all of a sudden we should sign him. And of course, there was a lot of the Argentine players responded to Raphinha after that beating that Argentina gave them. Now, these are some of the responses from some of the Argentine players, starting with Rodrigo De Paul, who says, "It's fine. It stays there on the pitch. We never disrespect anyone, and yet over the years, we've been disrespected quite a bit. We've been the best team of all time for 5 or 6 years. Let them respect us." And then Julian Alvarez says, it was historic because of the context and everything that was said, because we played a great game at home in front of our fans, and because we qualified for the World Cup. Now, these are not the only players who responded to Raphinha during the match. Otamendi got into kind of like an altercation with Raphinha and said, "Keep talking more, or talk less," or something like that. Something like, "Shut up," in other words. Messi responded to Raphinha as well, not directly, but he congratulated the team on Twitter, or X, or whatever the hell it's called now. And he kind of said, "We let our football talk on the field." In other words, you, Raphinha, talk on the mic, we talk on the field. And of course, the fans have gone crazy. There's even reports saying that on the WhatsApp messages between the Argentine players, they were all saying, they shouldn't talk if they can't back it up on the field, which is true, by the way, because honestly, Raphinha should have made those statements, not because they're inappropriate, but because Brazil is not the Brazil of before. Brazil now it's a pathetic team. And it's crazy because they have really good players, but they've been pathetic for quite some time, ever since that 7-1 in 2014 against Germany. Now, Scaloni, Argentina's coach, decided to, kind of put an end to everything and handle the situation in a very classy way. And this is what the Argentine coach had to say. I apologize to Raphinha because I know he didn't do it on purpose. He's defending his team. We value it because we prefer a heated match, but with or without statements, in Argentina, we were going to play our game. So Scaloni pretty much dismissing the whole thing, saying, look, it's just banter. And that's what it was. It was just banter. You know, Raphinha didn't actually mean that he was going to go after the match and beat up Argentina players. He was just, it's before a Clásico match. It's the biggest rivalry in international football. Of course, he's going to say, oh, we're going to beat them. He's not going to be like, well, we kind of suck right now, so Argentina is probably going to win. He had to say what he had to say. Now, that's not the problem. The problem is because Spanish media, of course, have taken this thing completely out of context. And of course, all the reports, the YouTubers, the TV programs, the radio talk shows have been talking nonstop about Raphinha, saying that, oh, if this was Vinicius Jr., everybody would be against it. But because it's Raphinha, it's okay. And the whole thing is pretty idiotic because there are no comparisons between Raphinha and Vinicius Jr. when it comes to things like that. Because A, Raphinha said it jokingly. It was a casual conversation with Romario. They were just talking, laughing. And it was a joke. He didn't actually mean that. And second, we're talking about Raphinha, a guy who always stays out of the spotlight, who never does anything controversial, never says anything controversial. He simply puts his head down, works hard, plays his ass off, and that's it. And to compare that to Vinicius Jr., who when he pulls the shit that he pulls, he's not doing it jokingly. When he fights with other players, he's not doing jokingly. When he abuses referees, he's not doing jokingly. When he abuses opposing fans, he's not doing jokingly. When he abuses other coaches, he's not joking. He's serious. So to compare those two is moronic. And two, because again, we're talking about Raphinha, who never does these kind of things, where Vinicius does it every fucking week. Every fucking week, we have to see Vinicius acting like a clown, disrespecting everybody that there is to disrespect, abusing everybody that there is to abuse. And to try to say that the two things are the same, it just tells me one out of two things. Either Spanish media are idiots and they cannot see the big difference, or B, they see the difference, but of course they want to mislead and they want to pretend that what Raphinha did here is somehow, some way comparable to the endless idiotic shit that Vinicius does. But of course, that's the Spanish media for you. And to give you an example of how they treat these two players, let's look at this compilation of headlines that Som Serem FCB did on Twitter, just to give you some context on what it's like to play for Madrid versus what it's like to play for Barcelona in the eyes of the Spanish media. Okay, here we go. There's the first headline. Brazil and Vinicius against the history of the Argentine Clásico, right? He's the hero of the whole thing, okay? Super Clásico, Vinicius again. And then when Brazil loses, it's the beating that Raphinha got. So when Brazil wins, it's Vinicius Jr.'s Brazil. When Brazil loses, it's Raphinha's Brazil. So that just to give you some context on what it's like, again, to play for Madrid versus to play for Barcelona in the eyes of Spanish media. Anyways, that is all I had to say about this whole thing. I think this was, should Raphinha said that? No, I think, the whole off the field comment was unnecessary. But should it be blown out of context and make it out to be like, oh my God, Raphinha's a horrible guy and he's the worst and blah, blah, blah. No. He said those statements. He said it jokingly. He was just trying to, engage in some banter before one of the most heated matches in the world. And that's it. There's not much more to it. It's not that, poor Vinicius, he's always the villain, but here we go, Raphinha doing the same. It's none of that crap. He shouldn't have said it. He said it. He said it jokingly. It's over. Like Scaloni said, it's just banter. Deal with it. Let's move on. All right, we do have another donation from my man Nathan, who was very, very generous. Says, man, you wanted to pay 70 mil. Give Rashford for Raphinha. I think Barca should give FDJ Wait. So, are you saying that we should give Frankie to Manchester United in exchange for Marcus? I don't think I understand your comment. If that's the case, I would say no, even though I am in favor of selling Frankie. But I don't think Frankie and Rashford are on the same level. Don't get me wrong, Rashford incredibly talented. When he's focused, he's incredibly lethal, but he's a player who's mostly underperformed throughout his career, which is a shame given the talent that he has. He could have easily been, one of the best players in the world. And Frankie, we've seen Frankie's been doing great this season. So, to trade a player that's doing as well as Frankie for a player as like Rashford, who he's bad most of the time. Frankie has his ups and downs. He's always had his ups and downs. That's why when people are like, oh, look at his form, we should renew him. I'm like, yeah, but we've seen this form before. And it's also been followed by really bad form, right? Frankie's always like this, up and down, up and down. But Rashford has mostly been down with very few spikes of up. So that's why I wouldn't make that trade. And I know people are going to get mad and be like, oh, what are you talking about? Mo, Frankie this, Frankie that. No one is denying how good is Frankie. No one is denying how important he is when he's on top of his game. But that's the problem. He's not always on top of his game. He's been at the club, 5 years now? And it's been a lot of inconsistencies, right? Where we've seen really great forms followed by bad forms, right? And that's my problem with it. And when you're paying a player, when you have a player who's the highest paid player in La Liga, you expect them to perform most of the time. Not all the time. That's impossible. Not even Messi performed well all the time, but at least 80%, right? And Frankie has been like 50-50. Maybe 60-40. 60 good, 40 bad. That's my problem with Frankie. I've never denied that he's good. I've never denied how important he is when he's on top of his game. The problem is he's had a lot of high inconsistency. And for the salary that he receives, just doesn't add up. And Texas Transplant, let's go with his generous donation. Always supporting this channel, says, and Barca, the ingredients to the good life. Oh, peace, love, music, and Barca. Gotcha. Okay, the ingredients to the good life. Amen, my friend. Amen. Would I add anything to that? Food. I would add food to that list. I'm a big foodie. I love to eat. I eat everything and anything. I don't shy away. I don't care if the food looks gross or if it smells bad. I'll eat it because most of the time it ends up being amazing. There's been a few times here and there where I didn't like what I had, but 99% of the time I always enjoy what I have. I think food is a great way to discover the world, to discover other cultures, and to discover other people. So I would add food to that. Peace, love, music, food, and of course, Barca, all day, every day. Thank you, my friend, for your generosity. And then let's do a few more comments. By the way, there's another Barca News video coming after this because there is more news, believe it or not. Now that the team is back, forget about it. It's news. FIFA international breaks are usually slow. There's a lot of interviews. But when club football is back, news picks up again. Edwin says, I hope for them to resign Torre and loan him to a fitting project. He has a lot of talent. Yeah, I think it would be a good option to extend him and send him out on loan. The only thing is, it's a double-edged sword, right? It can either be great, you extend them, you send them out on loan, he does amazing, he comes back, he continues to play, or you extend them, it doesn't work out, and now you're stuck with a player for another 3 years or 4 years versus just one more year, right? So it's, there's always a risk to it. Miguel says, I really want them to keep Pablo because he's a great player and indeed needs some more minutes. Love his aggression. He definitely needs more minutes, but the problem is he's not going to get them at Barcelona. So that's why maybe loaning him should be better. And Saksham says, Barca News, first time joined live. It's 5:30 a.m. here in India. I didn't sleep in the night to join the live stream. Well, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate your comment and I appreciate that you're watching. But you should sleep. Sleep is very important. You can always watch this when it ends. I want you to be well rested for the day. They say sleep deprivation is the number one killer. That's crazy. The human body is pretty amazing. How when we go to sleep, That's when your body heals, when your body regenerates, when you grow. So sleep is very important, very important. Richard says, Mo, do you think what happened to Raphinha and Brazil yesterday will affect him at Barca? I hope so. I hope he comes back, and I mean, he's not gonna play tomorrow, but on Sunday we're playing against Girona. Hopefully on Sunday he comes out and he's like pissed off and just goes off and scores 5 goals. Hopefully, I hope it does affect him, but in a positive way where he can take that anger and that rage and frustration and turn it into fuel, and he can just go off, because we have important matches. We have every match in La Liga right now is important, no matter who, because we're such a tight race. Every match from here until the end of the season is going to be a final. We have an actual semi-final in the Copa del Rey, and then of course we have the Champions League matches, right? So this is a very, very crucial part of the season where all the trophies and leagues will be decided. So I hope so. I hope it does affect him. I hope he comes back all mad and angry and frustrated, and he can turn all that into fuel and just go off. And Firas says, hi, Mo. I saw Dembele's Instagram profile picture change to an old picture of him with Gabi. What's your thoughts? So I talked about this at the beginning. The reports are saying that Dembele wants PSG to sign Gabi, but I mean, we know Gabi wants to stay, so I'm not worried. Bajo says, hey, man, thanks for all you do. 1:30 a.m. here in Nigeria. Bisca Barca. Bisca Barca, my friend, and thank you for watching this late. And let's see. Let's do a couple more comments, and then we'll end. Noel says, Paredes gave Rodrigo that I have a World Cup and 2 Copa Americas. You have 0. That was my favorite take. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to go into a match talking shit when A, your squad sucks, because Brazil has been really sad. B, you're going against probably the best or the top 2 squad in the world, because Argentina and Spain, to me, they're the 2 best teams in the world right now. And 3, yeah, you don't want to go and talk shit against a squad that literally just won Copa America, Finalissima, World Cup, Copa America, right? That's why it's more important to be humble. Just saying. All right, let's see. And one more comment, but not a funny guy, says, hey, Mo, always happy to catch your live. Thoughts on Trent Alexander-Arnold being linked to Barca? Excited about tomorrow's match. I feel like he's been linked for Barca for quite some time, but to my knowledge, there's no truth to those rumors. So we'll see where he ends up. My feeling is he'll probably renew with Liverpool, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. I'm not a Liverpool fan. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions, and incredibly generous donations. We'll be uploading one more video after this one, so stay tuned to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, now and forever, peace, Barca.